to Religion and Politics. I'm here with my wonderful, beautiful co-host, Christy Santiago.
Thank you, beautiful Mac. Hi, everybody. Happy Friday. Happy New Year. This year has been something, right? And we just got a bow, put on a little bit of justice at the end of the year. We've got some good stories, some in-depth stories, and a couple updates. So, hi, Mac. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I had a nice, relaxing, wonderful Christmas with Isabel, her best friend, and Stacy. We went to the movies and our Christmas jammies like we do every single year. That's our tradition. And it's getting more and more people every year. Like it used to be nobody there but us in our Christmas jammies looking crazy. Now everybody's in their Christmas jammies looking crazy. I'm like, did we start something? But we saw Violet Night instead of Violet Night. Yes. So you know the dad from Stranger Things that adopts 11. He plays Santa. He plays Santa, and Santa used to be a Viking. They used the old Santa lore that he came from the Norse with the red mushrooms on the tree.
Kind of like Odin.
Yes, kind of like badass Odin becomes Santa and has to kill a whole bunch of people, including John Leguizamo, who are about to purge the people in this house. It's so good. It's hilarious. I mean, I would have chosen something else, but I'm glad we saw it. Now I want to see it every Christmas. So look, I love it.
Viking mug again.
Yeah, that's pretty badass. Yeah. Cheers.
One of my favorite Christmas presents is for sure.
Yeah, it's pretty badass. I have a Viking fetish anyway.
Me too.
Yes, I just do. I really do. If there's any kind of reading that I haven't read and I find it, I'm like, I have to finish it. I've read on just hairstyles of Vikings that we don't know that much, but from what we found, how we know they styled. I'm a hairstylist, so it interests me from the way that they laced up things to the, I mean, like, it's pretty fascinating. I love that whole time period in history, like 700 to 900. I love it. I don't know why. Always have.
You guys should put down in the live chat comments if you guys just want Christy and I to just talk about all the odd religions and like old histories that we've like just independently studied and see where it crosses over at, because there's so much that each of us like dive into that we don't get to talk about on the show.
Right.
Like
no, those things are things that we do for fun on our own time with our free time. So, and your audio seems pretty poopy, but it won't be
better.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm probably just too far away. I see. I'm leaning back in my robe today for our final story.
I love it. I love it so much. I was just thinking, you know what? Fuck you, Tate. Max, Tate? That's how you wear a robe in your house. Without being a predator. Okay, that's not the story. Okay. So that's good.
And as we mentioned Nacha, I did want to mention Nacha as well. We are also here with our wonderful man behind the curtain, our Lord and Savior, Nacha Witness.
Nacha Witness. Yeah, who is in the future. It is New Year's Eve where Nacha is, and it is 10 hours away, or a little bit over 10 hours. So happy New Year, Mr. Future Man. That exists. I know. I've talked to him once. Okay, anytime. Okay, you guys, I have this crazy story. I do read newspapers. Guilty. I do online. I like to read newspapers from different states. I think that it helps me stay media literate. It helps me understand the local issues on the ground. And once in a while, not that I'm a huge Washington Post fan, they get something so spot on and full of information that this should be on every headline, on every channel, from their 8 o'clock news when they go live, again at 9, again at 10, and again at 11. That's how important and pertinent this information is. How they titled it and covered it, not a fan. Not a fan at all. I did put a link in the chat to the Washington Post in case anyone wants to pull it up and see for themselves. It is titled, and you would just pass right by this because you would think it's an opinion piece. Like, that's how awful it is. Can politics kill you? Research says the answer increasingly is yes.
Oh, yes.
Right. But these are scientific studies, and they're full of information that really need to be discussed, need to be looked at, and people need to know this information. So, as the coronavirus pandemic approaches its third full winter, two studies reveal an uncomfortable truth. The toxicity of partisan politics is fueling an overall increase in mortality rates for working age Americans. Now, I have to stop there because that's fucking bullshit. The information in here does not say that at all. They just don't want people on the right to say, liberal Washington, whatever they're going to say. They're going to say it anyway, Washington Post. So I don't know. Don't say stuff like that. But I didn't want to leave it out because that's how they start it. In one study, researchers concluded that people living in more conservative parts of the United States disproportionately bore the burden of illness and death linked to COVID-19. The other, which looked at health outcomes more broadly, found that the more conservative a state's policies, the shorter the lives of working age people in that state are. The reasons are many, but increasingly it is state and not just federal. They see that they have to put that in there. No, it is state policies that have begun to shape the economic, family, environmental, and behavioral circumstances that affect people's well-being. Some states have expanded their social safety nets, raising minimum wages and offering earned income tax credits while using excise taxes to discourage behaviors such as smoking that have deleterious health consequences. Other states have moved in the opposite direction. Researchers say the result of this growing polarization is clear. No, this article does not make any of that clear because none of that has anything to do with the information in this research. It is so frustrating to read this. And then when we get to this information, it is mind-blowing. The nation's overall health profile is going from bad to worse. Americans can now expect to live as long as they did in 1996. 76.1 years, with lifespans truncated by higher rates of chronic illnesses, deaths, and childbirth, and COVID. Quote, I'm not doing this research to be partisan, supporting one party or another, said Nancy Krieger, a social epidemiologist at the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health and co-author of one of these two studies in this article. This is about looking at the behavior of different actors, some of whom have a lot of power, a lot more power than others to set standards, make demands, and allocate resources. Krieger then goes on to say, it is fair for people to ask their elected officials, quote, are you doing what you should to protect our health? I agree. Harvard researchers analyzed data on COVID-19 mortality rates at the stress on hospital intensive care units across all 435 congressional districts from April 2021 to March 2022. They also examined congressional members' overall voting records, how they voted on 4 coronavirus relief bills, and whether the governor's office and legislature of the state were controlled by one party. The study published this month in the Lancet Regional Health Americas found that the more conservative the voting records of members of Congress and state legislators, the higher age-adjusted COVID mortality rates, even after taking into account the racial, educational, and income characteristics of each congressional district, along with vaccination rates. COVID death rates were 11% higher in states with Republican-controlled governments and 26% higher in areas where the voters lean conservative. Similar results emerged about hospital ICU capacity when the concentration of political power in a state was conservative. The findings cannot be explained away as features of the economic and social conditions of the people who live in various congressional districts, Krager said. This is somehow above and beyond the demographics of the districts that members represent. It's suggesting that there is something going on through political processes. Something's happening to my head. I'm just writing this, so it's mind-numbingly frustrating. So yeah, something is happening, and it's suggesting that there is something going on through political processes associated with the political voting patterns of elected officials. Public policies, that's what it is. I'm glad it's in the next paragraph down below. But policies, along with public opinions about masks, about vaccines, right, and many other factors help change the nation's pattern of COVID mortality. A Washington Post analysis of COVID data from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention from April 2020 through this summer found the age-adjusted death rates for COVID had shifted. Early in the pandemic, communities of color, especially Black people, disproportionately bore the burden. But by mid-October 2021, that pattern had shifted, with the death rate for white Americans who form the core of the Republican base sometimes eclipsing that of other groups. And still, the unequal burden of death and disease transcends COVID. A chasm of inequality puts communities of color at higher risk of chronic conditions that leave immune systems vulnerable. A reflection of systematic racism, public health experts say. So I'm just gonna look away. Too often, public health and medical behavior is understood to be individual level behavior. Politicians behave, institutions behave. If your congressional representative is encouraging you to wear a mask or to not wear a mask, those are very different messages. The division in American politics has grown increasingly caustic and polarized, but it wasn't always this way. What could it be? I don't know. One party is trying to kill you with policies. Like, why can't they just say it? And then I love this next part, you guys, the progressive era in America. You guys know that's my favorite historical part of this country. Always has been. Start from 1930s to the 1970s. I'm just like, so the progressive era, that's what it's called in history books. Say it. So people put the progressive party, progressive policies with the progressive part. Like, they could do so much justice with this. It's so frustrating. So from the 1930s to the 1970s, there were major investments to improve the lives of the vulnerable people nationwide. The Social Security Act of 1935, Medicare and Medicaid in 1965. Before these federal programs, the nation was a hodgepodge of state programs that varied widely, said University of Washington political sciences Jake Grumbach, a co-author of a study on the effects of state policy on the mortality of working age adults, published in October, that's one of the other studies in here, in the journal PLOS 1+1. Everyone saw benefits in the progressive era, but the federal legislation from earlier decades pulled the poorer states up faster, right? Progressive policies. You saw a convergence between states in terms of health outcomes. That would be wonderful. Then came the breakdown of the New Deal coalition. Right, what was that? That was the pendulum swinging to the right. Then we had Reagan, like they could really educate their readers. The breakdown of the New Deal coalition, the nationalization of media, increased money in politics, right, with Citizens United, and the social upheaval of the 1960s and 1970s. the civil rights movement, the women's movement, the sexual revolution, environmentalism, all of this wonderful, great stuff. And then we had people who were terrified at how fast this country was changing for the better. However, that's where that pendulum swung. I mean, my mom was a young Republican during this time. It was a cool thing to be. It was the counterculture, is what a lot of the conservatives like to say. However, the progressive era started as a counterculture to what was presented. So, it just educate yourself on history, man. All of those things contributed to polarization, which, no, I don't agree with that sentence, but I get maybe the editor made them do that. Who knows? Grumbach said, adding that the rupture began kicking up in the 1990s. Clinton. I want to just put this over here for a second. I'm listening to a podcast on the Epstein from the very beginning, from the very first girl that ever came forward. I want to tell you, in that book of people who came to visit him, Trump is in there. Clinton is in there. You know who fucking isn't in there? Bernie Sanders. We were offered Trump or Clinton, and Bernie got kicked out. These two are disgusting. They're in there. These girls who worked there saw him. They put their testimony anyway. So yeah, the 1990s, I think of Clinton, and I'm thinking of this podcast I'm listening to, and it's disturbing. So kicking up in the 90s and has really taken hold since 2010. What was 2010? Inform your readers. That was the Tea Party. Occupy. I mean, so much was happening right then. An era that saw a real radicalization of the Republican Party. Agree, but tell them why. Culminated with former President Donald Trump. The gridlock and lack of productivity and polarization causes mean that if you want to do anything, you have to do it at the state level. State elections were battlegrounds during the 2022 midterm elections, which didn't produce the red wave that was forecast. Of the 36 gubernatorial elections, Democrats flipped 3 seats that were up for grabs, and Republicans flipped 1. So that now the nation's governors are almost evenly split right down the middle along party lines, 50-50. And voters in 6 states passed ballot initiatives to protect abortion rights and to expand access to health care, including in 3 states where Republicans controlled the legislature and had opposed taking action on those measures on their own. You guys, the federal government allots this money for states for them to expand their Medicare and help more of their citizens. They refuse it and leave it there. I live in one of those states. They won't touch it because they don't want big government. However, the citizens of their state would benefit from it, including myself. It's so frustrating. People will hold their nose and vote for a candidate that represents their party, but they don't have to hold their nose when they're voting on a policy issue. And as Mac and I have said many times, it doesn't matter if they're conservative. If you sit down and talk to people one-on-one about one policy, 90% of the time, most Americans are going to vote for progress and on that issue. That just is the way that it is. I love that she did add that. So this is Aaron O'Brien, a political scientist at the University of Massachusetts at Boston. That's because conservative politics is as much about identity as it is about issues of concern. Even as healthcare remains critically important, O'Brien said, but how that broad concern can be manipulated, framed, used in politics, policy is different. So while Grumbach's recent study suggests, quote, if you want people to live longer and more healthy, you should implement policies that are associated with the Democratic Party. But for marijuana, that's his opinion. I don't agree with that. O'Brien said she wonders, quote, how would a libertarian or real conservative read that? Why are you worried about how people feel about your article? Just tell the truth. And you can tell that they're worried about it because they just said you should vote more Democratic Party, but oh, we're worried about how bunch of pussies, every single one of them. A sense of liberty informed by a fatalistic acceptance that hardships happen in life is bedrock in many conservative areas, she said. If liberty means you've got guns and that gun is accessible when you're having a depressive episode, they're not there to coddle other citizens, O'Brien says. That's the opposite of humanism. That is like the complete opposite of humanism. Right? God, horrible people. The October report found that if all states, listen to this, implemented liberal policies on environment, gun safety, criminal justice, health and welfare, labor, marijuana, and economic and tobacco taxes, that is 9. If they implemented liberal policies on 9 major issues, more than 170,000 lives would have been saved in 2019. On the flip side, if states went with a conservative version of those policies, there would have been 217,000 more deaths in 2019 than there actually were. The equivalent of a 600-passenger airplane crashing every single day of the year. The largest projected number of lives saved, about 201,000, came from a more mixed menu of ideologies. They did have conservative marijuana policies, which means completely illegal, and liberal policies on everything else, according to the report. The study noted that the emergence of more conservative state policies and shifts in population to states governed by these policies only partially explains why U.S. life expectancy is abysmal compared to other high-income nations. Jennifer Caris Montes, the director of the Center for Aging and Policy Studies at Syracuse University and lead author of this October study that I'm talking about, said the findings show, quote, state policy knobs are a lever that we could use to really turn this country around and stop this alarming, just horrible when you think about it, increase in the risk of dying before the age of 65. Midterm ballot initiatives showed the direct role voters can play in determining state health policy. South Dakota, super conservative state. Voters passed a measure to expand Medicaid, even though that state was not accepting that money, joining voters in 6 other conservative states who previously insisted a wider pool of people be eligible for health insurance than allowed under the Affordable Care Act. They want more people to be covered in these conservative states because on an issue-by-issue basis, people want progress. Despite there being 11 holdout states that just refuse to expand Medicaid and ongoing legal challenges, Jennifer Young, a Republican health policy expert, said the issue is becoming a little bit less politicized, and awareness is increasing that people's access to health insurance is being harmed, and states are leaving money on the table. And that's a conservative saying that, because they are. They should just take this and help their citizens. It's just waiting for them. The fact that these states are continuing to have ballot initiatives that kind of forced the decision makes those states who have not yet done so reflect on their actions, Young said during a Kaiser Family Foundation panel discussion. Quote, I wouldn't want to be naive or Pollyanna-ish, but I think it's more of a reasonable topic to discuss today than it was 5 years ago, end quote. I agree with this conservative. It is easier today because more people are informed because of tiny channels like this, because of big channels. If you have information that you can back up and you think that a lot of people around you don't know, I feel like that would be my duty to at least put it out there. So we have that going on. Another issue caused Republicans consternation during the midterm elections: abortion rights. which were on the ballot in 5 conservative states after the Supreme Court struck down Roe v. Wade in June. Other states, along with California, Michigan, Vermont, enshrined abortion rights in their state constitutions, codifying it. And voters in Kentucky and Montana rejected anti-abortion measures. Conservative states. We saw states step back from the brink of the most aggressive interventions. And I do hope that's a lesson that the party takes seriously, Young said, adding she doubts House Republicans will abandon their aggressive positioning on abortion. I agree. But she said that's not what voters are saying to us, because voters say, hey, that should not be taken away from half the population. You know, all the citizens should have bodily autonomy. With abortion services no longer legal nationwide, university researchers have estimated that maternal deaths could increase by up to 25 to 30%, worsening this nation's maternal mortality and morbidity crisis that we're already in right now. Americans live shorter lives than people in peer nations, in part because it is the worst place among high-income countries to give birth. The nation is entering, but we're the family. Let's not have abortions. We're the family first country. The nation is entering a period that some political scientists say is certain to be fractious and gridlocked on the federal level. Still, they predict some movement in the lame duck congressional session on a handful of issues possessing bipartisan appeal. One reason Democrats retain the Senate is that voters were motivated by the fear of losing protections that people care about, whether it was electoral or whether it was abortion, or frankly, healthcare in general, said Chris Jennings, a Democratic health policy strategist. Democrats feel somewhat reaffirmed by both their advocacy of policy and their positioning to protect those rights, because they're the only party, and I'm not a huge Democratic Party fan, but they are literally the only option that is even interested in governing at all. So we have that.
It's the only real viable option.
There's that as well. Yeah, it checks both of those boxes.
Right. There's a good argument to say that there are better options that are less viable.
Right.
It's a good argument to say they're not a good choice a lot of the time, especially seeing who who represents that party. But that's what we got to play with.
Mm-hmm. Literally is. Yes. And as much as, I think Biden is just wah on so many things, a step up from the last president, because I actually saw a lot of things that, I would have liked to be further or more along, but actually get done. That's called governing. That doesn't mean that I'm like, Biden's amazing. I'm just saying, these things did get done, and it's nice to see somebody govern, even if it's just a little bit. Go ahead.
So I got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Now's a good time to ask it then. Now, you said better than the last president. I'm assuming you're not just talking about Trump, because that's a toss-up. Are you talking about better than Obama?
I mean, God, Obama got quite a few things done that I was proud of. But when he had the president, the executive, the House, and the Senate, he could have codified. I mean, it was a disappointment. And then 2010 and the Tea Party, and so the past presidents, I could say modern presidency. It was nice to see at least a couple things, and that's not actually fair. There were a few things that Biden re-implemented that were implemented by another president. They got taken off by the previous president and just put back on because they're just like, we gotta do something.
Well, no, I feel like this still is fair because Obama did that too, right? There's a lot of stuff he passed down and he just let it go, right? His nickname was
Deporter in Chief.
Deporter in Chief, right? And Biden, I don't know if he's got that nickname, but he didn't get
Drone King.
Title 42.
Entitled. No, he didn't.
So
Obama was known as the drone king, but Trump surpassed him in his first 2 years in Obama's
yeah,
8.
and
Like
now
first years.
Trump also passed something to stop reporting on drone strikes,
That's
right?
right.
So it seems like we don't have that problem anymore, but it just seems like that. So we really can't say. We have to say agnostic
Yeah.
on,
Yeah.
on that issue. But um, right now, Biden seems to be doing more. He pulled out of Afghanistan, and that's a huge one, right?
Mhm.
He's talked to Venezuela. He did a prisoner exchange. It looks like we're kind of. It looks like we're on the route to have a better relationship with them for trade.
With Cuba as well.
Yes, and with and with Cuba. And that, I mean, those things alone, I don't know if that makes him better than Obama, but it's definitely some stuff that Obama didn't do, right? And then is it DACA that Obama did with
Yes.
for
The
dreamers?
dreamer.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was
Yes.
great.
That
I,
was
I
beautiful.
I remember not quite understanding what was going on because I wasn't really paying attention a lot then. I didn't know if I liked Obama, but I remember when he announced it. I was at my parents' house. He was going on about like he was announcing it, and my mom was just already on that mode of oh whatever that man says is lying, it's bad. So she turned it off. And I was oh I was watching it. She's like oh you don't need to listen to it. And I was like an adult. I was just visiting, but I remember being there and her shutting it off. And then I went back in the player and like that actually sounds like a really good, nice thing. I think I
Right.
agree with that policy. I don't
Yeah.
know a lot of what Obama did, but as I do now, I'm glad I do because it was pointed out to me
Yeah.
by Kyle Kalinske that when you see someone do something good, whether you like them or not, right? You got to
Yep.
call it out. And whether you like them or not, if they do something bad, you got to call them out.
Of
Um,
course.
so that's one of my favorite things that Obama did before I was really any kind of political. Um, and still to this day. And then uh, Biden obviously pulling out of Afghanistan. And then Trump with the First Step Act, right? I think that's the only thing that I can pull out of my ass for Trump. Um, but yeah, I mean, they all do something good, they all do something bad, and then more on one side or the other.
Right.
But I guess back to the original question, so we can just quickly answer it and then move on. Who's
Yeah.
better? Who's
More
better
right.
in your book right
We'll
now?
have, I guess we'll have to wait.
You don't have an opinion right now, like so far.
I would literally have to go back and Obama feels like 20 years ago and like write down the ones I agreed with, and then when whether Biden has 4 years or not, I would have to compare 4 years to 4 years instead of 4 years to 8 years. So
So right now you think they're comparable.
just about, yeah. I mean, same.
Bird's eye. Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
about the same. All right, let's just get this last little part over with. Okay. We saw states step back from the brink of the most aggressive interventions. Remember, we were talking about that. She hopes that the Republicans take that seriously and that she doesn't think that they'll change their positioning on abortion. And she said, but that's not what the voters are saying to her. To her, they're saying, we think that all people in this nation should have bodily autonomy. So, with abortion services no longer nationwide, university researchers have estimated that maternal deaths, I told you, could go up by 20 to 30% of what's already a huge morbidity crisis. The nation is entering a period that some political scientists say is certain to be fractious and gridlocked. And that they do think that a lot of things will push, even if it's incremental, because they have bipartisan appeal. One reason Democrats retained the Senate was the voters were motivated by the fear of losing protections that people care about. And let's see, Democrats feel both somewhat reaffirmed both by their advocacy of policy and their positioning to protect those rights. Healthcare is a priority agenda item for good or for bad, Jennings said, cautioning that, quote, sometimes we have to lower our expectations of how big and broad policy accomplishments will look. There's bipartisan interest in coverage for post-incarceration populations in the Medicaid program. There's real interest in postpartum care. Political scientists also say there could be bipartisan movement on extending telehealth flexibilities, including those that made it easier for doctors to be reimbursed for the virtual appointments and improving care for mental health and substance abuse. Quote, it's not going to be easy, Jennings said during the same Kaiser Family Foundation panel. It's not going to be comprehensive, but there will be developments of progress. So you could tell, you guys pay attention, there was a lot of really good data that is so important for American families. But it was just kind of like, we'll tell you about it and then we'll be like, oh, I didn't want to make anybody mad. But I just thought it was such an important piece, those two. I did post it, so you can go onto this article and look up both those studies. They're available in that research, and check them out, because there's so much more than what got right here, and a lot more stating that it's not policies that cause more death, it's the policies of this party. It's not that there isn't enough money for these people. It's that your state refuses to accept the money that will help you. There's just so much of that, and it's one party that's doing it. So
it's also how it's allocated.
And also what?
Also how it's allocated when they do accept the money.
When they what?
Sorry. It's also how the money is allocated.
Right.
It's how it's distributed if they actually take the money, get the money.
Right. Yes, there's that. They do have problems with that. And in all states, they have some issues with that. But I would say in red states, it is significantly more. Even in those states where it was a referendum for those citizens of that state to vote on that one topic, expanding Medicaid per se, they're going to have issues because that state doesn't want it. Just like I live in Florida, and 2 cycles ago, we collectively as a state had a referendum on allowing citizens of Florida who have served their time, paid their probation, they did what they needed to do. They're now a free citizen of the state of Florida, should have their voting rights reinstated. We all agreed. It was over 60% of the state agreed. And then Ron DeSantis comes in and says, wait, that is not what we want. That's not what we want at all, and has made it really impossible for a lot of people. So they're going to see a lot of that in these states that didn't want it, but their citizens do and voted on it. They're going to take it to court. They're going to do a whole bunch of bullshit.
What you're forgetting, Christy, is that a pure democracy is bad, and we're not a pure democracy. And we can't, we got to look out for the people's best interests. Honestly.
Yeah.
We have to protect the people from themselves.
I love that one. Oh, democracies are messy. And if they don't go your way, it doesn't mean that you overthrow the government. It means that you...
What?
Wait, what?
Wait, what?
What? Nerd clusters are my favorite candy. This bag of nerd clusters, that was a lot. And they're all mine. I'm very happy about that.
Let me see them again. There you go.
Awesome. And every single gummy on the inside is all strawberry. They're all strawberry. Oh. So the rainbow ones are the ones that are yellow, and the very berry ones are the ones that are blue. I get the 2 packs and dump them both in the same bag.
Nice.
If I had to choose one, it would be the original rainbow. But because I don't have to choose, I get them both.
Yeah, there you
go. So our next story is actually an update on Iran. I think that's important. I didn't know if you wanted to add anything.
No, not no. I think you covered that well, and I don't have anything to add. So I'm sure I'll have things to say over the
Yeah,
Iran. So
yeah. I'm sure. Iran updates, everyone. That's where we're gonna go now. Okay. As you guys know, since September, Iran has had mass uprising. Ongoing anti-government protests in Iran just passed their 100th day this week. The protesters have been met with widespread arrests, brutal police violence, sexual violence, even to minor children, some as young as 14 years old, and public executions. Iranian authorities targeted the family of the Iranian soccer superstar Ali Dahi, who has been outspoken for months now and a critic of Iran's crackdown. Iranian authorities forced an airliner to land mid-flight so his wife and daughter could be removed from the plane and stopped from leaving Iran. That's fucking terrifying. Thousands of protesters have been arrested. 500 plus have been killed, including 69 plus children. This all follows the recent public executions of 2 young men for their participation in protests. The Oslo-based organization, Iranian Human Rights, has identified at least 100 detainees sentenced to death by the state government, charged with capital offenses like offending their gods and dumb stuff like that. Masa Amini was the original 22-year-old, and every day I say women, life, freedom. Every day I try to remember, I'm not there, none of us are there. I just hope they can feel our solidarity. And they did have a message. They do not want any governments to do any deals, work any deals out with their leadership there. They don't want it. The Iran deal, the Iran anything that, we both think is a great idea. It did what it needed to do. It didn't need to be taken away. However, they said, do not make any deals with them. Sanction them for what they're doing to us. Make it, and I agree. When I first heard it, I was like, wait, what? That's not good, but I get it. They're killing their citizens. The Oslo organization, Iran Human Rights, stated 500 killings is a minimum. They really believe it's twice as many because they are aware of too many families who've been forced to not publicize the deaths of their children or their family members. Nearly 20,000 people have been taken into prisons or disappeared. At least 10,000 of these taken are held indefinitely because there's no charges. They're being held for political prisoner. So one of these taken was one of the most disturbing human rights violations I've seen, said the Oslo Organization for Human Rights. Iran is using rape to enforce women's modesty. It was a 14-year-old girl. Many people witnessed and verified this story to the Oslo organization. The 14-year-old Masume attended high school in the middle of this area that a lot of the Iranian guards and people who actually are pro-government live in this area. But this high school she went to was a big, huge protest every single day. She's 14. She joined that protest. The school's cameras identified her getting picked up because she was taken from her school and held for 3 days. When she showed up 3 days later, she had been completely mentally, physically, psychologically destroyed. She suffered sexual assault and gang rape at the age of 14 by her own government. She was telling, she had, the way that the guy from Oslo described it is she was so upset and so manic because of it that she was walking around the neighborhood, knocking on people's door and telling people she just couldn't believe that nobody was doing anything, that this had happened to her. And because of area that she lived in, she knocked on the wrong people's door, or the wrong people heard that she was telling people what they did to her. So the authorities found out and picked up the mom and the 14-year-old girl. That community put all of their resources together to bail the mom and the daughter, they hoped, out. When they finally got their money together and could bail the mom out, they had to look for the daughter. Her body was found at a psychiatric hospital. The mother was so frightened, she took her other child and disappeared. The Oslo Organization for Human Rights is urging citizens of Iran and their families to help preserve evidence like this. Evidence of human rights abuse, whether it's rape or anything, and secure it. And they've given examples of how to secure it. You know, I don't need to go into that now. You guys understand how forensics work. And to secure it enough until, secure it till they're in a place where they are safe and secure enough to publicize it and get it investigated. That's terrifying. So I think that I can post in the chat in a minute the conversation talking to this Oslo human rights organization and Amy Goodman having a conversation. It's very informative, I'll tell you that much. There's much more to that story that you guys can only imagine. It's just, how fucking dare you touch children? Like, what is wrong with you? What is wrong when you do that? And then to gang rape a child, like, well, no to any of that. And to do it for what? For what reason? I will never understand that.
Make an example.
Yeah. But for what? Now she's dead, and now more people are going to protest. Like, you're just creating more citizens to be against you. A rapper, they're going after the rappers. The Iranian government will not allow any ideology that is a difference or something other than what they have already put out there. So if there's no if, it doesn't exist. So their rappers and their singers and their actors and their poets and their artists have become those kind of people for them. And so they're going after the rappers. And one is locked up and is probably going to die because he tweeted back at them. They wanted him, come and dance or come and put on a show or whatever it was that they asked him to do. And he said, we're too busy mourning the people you're killing every day to come dance for you. That was his comeback on Twitter. And that was enough. We have the chess player. She's playing chess today without a hijab on. Her entire team is against her doing this. She's so brave, and I don't know how she's going to get home and what's going to happen to her. It's just nerve-wracking. And I'm not there. I'm safe here.
I don't know. What to do about this kind of problem. It's honestly, I think the best thing that people can do, honestly, because I can't think of anything better, is what we're doing. Echoing it. We just have to echo it. We need more people to care about it. And the only way you do that is to repeat it so more people hear it. And this is incredibly devastating. I wanted to post in the live chat and just give some notch or two in the description. It's the Dare to Doubt crisis there. That's not going to help these people. Not to this extent, right? But it does help individuals, especially who are more spread out, in theocracies.
Okay.
Um, this is the same link that uh, Drew from genetically modified skeptic shares in all of his videos, apostates and and I thought of that while you were talking because whether you're an apostate or not, in the eyes of a theocratic dictating government, to go against a government that is said to be divinely authoritative,
Mm-hmm.
you need people who are absolutely in no way um, aligned with the religion that you're against, right? Or again, not even that you're against the religion, but it is safer to go to atheists.
Yeah.
Um, in this case,
I can tell you something a little bit funny from that's happening in Iran, which I mean, it probably could get people really hurt. However, it has become kind of a meme. It's called turban tipping. And they have someone with their phone or a camera, and there's religious person walking, and they walk by and flip his turban, and there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these happening every single day all across Iran. And hashtag turban tipping is what they call it. And there, I mean, videos on the subway. One guy's walking up, but this other religious man is walking, and he walks up, flips it, and runs this way. But the camera gets the whole thing. There's so many of them all over. You can find them yourself on YouTube. Turban tipping in Iran. It's a fun way to be nonviolent and say we don't want that fucking shit here.
right, right. And they don't take it as nonviolence.
Right.
To be clear, but Christy's right. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like I want something constructive to say right now, but the best I can do is repeat this, right? That doesn't mean necessarily share the link so people can listen to us for 56 minutes and get to this point. Um, we do appreciate it when you share our show, like it, subscribe, all that jazz. But the point is, and what we try to do um, for our listeners of the show is you give you clear cut ways to talk about these topics, right? And pointing out that what we have here in America, we need to take advantage of. And we need to point out what we're taking advantage of. This freedom of religion and freedom from religion. Because we need that echo too for those people who don't have that yet. For the societies that don't have that yet. Because Iran does not have that. And I know, I forget which country she's from. Well, I mean, forgetting her name right now.
Do you hate when I hate when my mind does that to me? Remember, I
Yeah.
couldn't remember the last show. I'm like, we were at war with them. We like couldn't remember the word.
Right.
Yeah, thank goodness for chat.
Yeah. Um, I can see her face. She's one of the ex-Muslims. She was arrested last year. Zara.
Oh, yes, there you go. Yes, Zara, love her.
Yeah, I forget where she's from, but she's also from a country in the Middle East.
Super smart, great sense of humor.
Yeah, absolutely awesome human being. But
adorable.
Her society also needs that freedom from religion.
It does.
And when people can't win it in their societies, I think we as a humanist community need to try to give them ways out, ways to escape and criticize the government in a safer area. If that's what they wish, right? Because a lot of people want to stay home, criticize their government, so it gets better and they work on that change. And some people don't want any part of that. Some people are too afraid to be a part of that. All of us understand it. I love to criticize the government because I want to get better and I want to be part of that change. But I'm also much safer as I do it.
Right.
Yeah. So, but for those who just want to live freely, safely, again, as a humanist organization, we need to share websites like this and have a big enough community and people we can branch out to and be like, hey, this person wants out. What can we do? Can we raise money, right? Or something? What can we do for people in need like this? Not that we can extradite all of Iran, but I don't know. It just makes me think that this is something we need to focus on. And so if anyone has any ideas or thoughts on how we can help out with this kind of issue, any other resources that we can pass on to people who are over there, please share them not only with us but with anyone you in contact with over there.
On the LEAH Facebook page, there are great things being posted there. It's a good I don't spend a lot of time on Facebook, but I always make time to stop by, and it's just good stuff and good people. But I do think that we need to share outside of there the stuff that we're sharing in there, because we all care about this stuff. And even if it's something like, oh, I didn't know that, we're going to, oh, I didn't know that, let me learn about it. That's just how we are in this group. And I think that we need to give others the opportunity to also be like that, sharing it outside of a humanist group. There's Ukraine going on, the Yemen war that Biden, I really need to cover this in depth. Biden ran on not supporting Saudi Arabia in this disgusting thing that's happening, and just said, no, we're not, it's not on our agenda, we're not worrying about that. Right. It's just, so we have all this stuff happening in all these horrible places, and I think that it's important that we do talk about them here, even though, you could go your whole day. Many people, most Americans, I'm sure, do go their whole day without thinking about Yemen or Yemeni children who you can see every bone in their face, in their chest. No child should ever be that malnutritioned, ever. And it's not something that's happening that we can't help. It's something that's happening because things are being done to them. This year has been crazy full of stuff like this. So I guess it's good that we got a couple gifts wrapped up with a bow for the end of this year.
Yeah.
Like our next story, Donziger. Remember when we covered Stephen Donziger, guys?
Yeah, like 2 or 3 times. We've actually kept up with him really well.
Yes, we have tried to keep up with him really well. He is the environmentalist lawyer who sued Chevron in Ecuador. Yeah. Yes, and Ecuador actually won, and Chevron is refusing to pay any of it, and then also did the whole a whole bunch of bullshit, put him on house arrest, made it impossible for him to make any money. He can't have an income. He can't leave his apartment. Just a whole bunch of horrible shit. Demanded his phone, and he said he can't give up that client privilege.
1,000-day detention.
Yeah, 1,000-day detention. Yeah, we have an update, and I'm very excited to hear what it is, Matt.
Yeah. I was having a hard time gathering this whole thing. Because I was trying to read about it, and I just kept reading about the history of this case, which is long. yeah, it's really long, really fascinating. But I do want to make it kind of shorter because we have covered it.
13,
So please visit our older
was it
story.
13 years
Huh?
or 16 years that he's worked on this? 13 years
I think it's
in this case.
uh,
I thought it was 13 years, but it could have been 16. No, it was 16 million. Sorry, it was 13 years. I have my numbers all messed up. That's a long time for people to wait for justice. And think about like myself, yourself, people you know, they can't spend 13 years paying legal fees. They
no,
just can't. That's what they hope to do, is to make you just bow out.
correct.
Donziger doesn't bow out.
Mhm. So
He's a real hero, you guys. I so impressed by this guy.
okay, Dante, Donziger and the rest of his legal team filed a class action lawsuit in 1993 against Texaco on behalf of 30,000 farmers and indigenous Ecuadorians. The company fought the case in Ecuadorian courts for, oh, cool, thanks for refreshing right then. Wow. Um, the company fought this case in Ecuadorian courts for years, continuing it after it was acquired by Chevron in 2001. Ultimately, in 2011, 10 more years after that, a court ordered Chevron to pay $18 billion. The company appealed the case all the way to Ecuador's highest court, which affirmed the judgment but cut the amount nearly in half to $9.5 billion. All right, so that's what Chevron did. Now, this this case was actually um, like backed by other like countries' courts, like Canada and um, across the pond. But in every case, Chevron was like, "Yeah, guys, y'all fucked up. We agree. You gotta pay." And then and after they completely, totally lost the case, like in 2011, they started to go after Stephen Donziger personally, saying that he uh, had a hand in witness tampering and um, withheld uh, evidence from the court and didn't turn over his computers, yada, 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 this, that, just basically fraud and perjury. So they had him detained here in the US. There's a judge, I can't remember if she was from New York or one of the neighboring states. She was a big old fuckerzoid. I don't remember her name. I remember her face. And it was a bitch face, if you're wondering. But yeah, basically, what they accused Stephen Donziger of, um, basically like underwriting what the court should say and do to Chevron, they did to him personally. They hired more or less, like they made sure that a judge from the Federalist Society took on this case, who was super duper pro corporate and has gotten a lot of money from them personally because they donate to the Federalist Society. It's a big old fuckaroos and do's and days. Excuse me. That said, um, here's a big step, but I want to premise this with this is only good because action is happening and it hasn't. This is utter bullshit that this is it. 16 million is being paid to 4 Ecuadorian farmers. Honestly, hip hip hooray. These 4 farmers. Um, But they owe 9.5 million for their cut in half penalties. I'm sorry, did I say million? 9.5 billion. And they paid 16 million. I mean, they agreed to pay, enforced to pay. But it's absolutely atrocious. It's fucking stupid. I know that you can't just ban one of the heavy hitter, like the big player oil companies
No,
from
you
doing
can't.
this. It's just not good for our economy. But
Mm.
I honestly don't understand why we can't nationalize our oil companies when they've done this much damage to the environment in just one case. And just leap out. I mean, how much does Chevron make in a year? Hold on, let's check it out. How much?
Mm.
Chevron. Nope. Revenue revenue for 12 months ending September 30th, 2022 was 237.908 billion.
Wow. Wow.
That's a 70.44% increase year over year. That's a lot, right?
Yeah.
So honestly, anyone who has any power over the regulation of these companies should be able to do the math real quick,
Mm-hmm.
kick out the CEO who's not paying their debts, because I'm sure they're paying their dividends. That's another thing. That was the next thing I click on to look up. I don't give a fuck right now. You have to pay your debts, right? Because that money goes towards cleaning up your mess. Keystone Pipeline.
Mm.
I don't remember if we covered it, but it sprung a leak.
Yep.
No
Sure
big
did.
fucking surprise.
No.
Um, it's this. If any conservative would like to debate me on this, or anyone, keep in mind you need to clean your own room, right? You need to
Mm.
clean up your own fucking mess before you do anything else.
Yep.
It doesn't matter which side you argue from, you got to clean up your own fucking mess. And they're not.
Nope.
From Christy and I side of the aisle, I think I can speak for her too. We should just fucking nationalize, and whatever they owe plus interest, you take away from from like the owners personally, and then whatever you make, because now the states own this um
Like
200.
Alaska.
Yeah, well, that, but this 200 billion plus
Right.
income,
Right.
that
Got
just that
healthcare, early education. I mean, yeah, it keeps going. He was
that.
describing how they got away with this.
Yeah.
That when he was
Well,
describing.
hold on.
Okay, go ahead.
Before you do that, something else we could do with it is pay the people who work for the oil. Right? Just use that money to run the business better. We could just do that, pay the employees more, actually pay for safety regulations. Like we could just run the company better. Yes, we could pay for a ton of shit on top of that. That would pay for social services that we want. We could just run the company better as a government. And not keep the CEOs or the top 10 people in the company because they obviously don't know how to clean up their own fucking messes. Right? This is partly a moral argument, but it's not entirely, right? There's no other company that you can, I'm sorry, can't say that. I live kind of next to a camel that pollutes the fuck out of a nearby river. But they're expected to clean up their own messes or at least take the blame, right? And it's just fucking atrocious. Sorry, Christy. Don't.
Oh, you're fine. Yeah, the Steven Donziger says he has no regrets amid the lengthy legal battle with Chevron that has won him support with Democrats in Congress who have pushed for his release from detention. To supporters, Donziger is a folk hero who stood up to the power of oil companies in Latin America and has now suffered a personal cost. To opponents, in the eye of the law as it stands now, he's a fraud who allegedly ghost wrote an Ecuadorian's judge ruling ordering Chevron to pay $9.5 billion to farmers and indigenous groups in the country. That's false. He did not do that. That is what they're claiming so that they don't have to pay. Now, this one that he just won, the 16 million, is from Shell. And the reason why is because I can't remember the country. I want to say Norwegian court, but it's not. It's the same. It's a respected, wealthy, mostly white nations, and their courts, their judicial is very much respected. Now, because this judge, a female, took a look at this case and saw that Chevron only works in America. They do not work anywhere else in the country or in the world, which is fucking a lie. It's mind-blowing because they work all over the world. But what they've done is they whole cloth made up this. They looked at the law, they had all these think tanks come together and said, okay, so we can't work there, but if we make up a subsidiary of us that's there and it's their own, even though we're above them, they're a subsidiary of us, so it's not us, and we'll have the subsidiaries everywhere around the world. It's still them. And so Donziger described how this is how they do it. So when that subsidiary of Chevron has a massive spill or just leaves everything or dumps things or completely ruins villages, those villagers go to their state government and file a case against that Chevron subsidiary. And Chevron here in the United States says, we don't work over there. We don't work over there. That's not us. This judge, which I will, of course, finish this right here on my own time, and I will go underneath this video when we're done and post where this woman is, this Supreme Court of this country is from. She looked at it and said, no, Chevron, you're lying. But it was Shell in this one. Shell's doing the same thing. And said, no, you're lying. It is you. It's a subsidiary of you. And this is made up. You just made this up to skirt the law. And in my court, that's not happening anymore. I'm sorry, it's not. And she said, no. And now that sets precedent that this respected judicial Supreme Court said, that is some made up shit that I've never seen before. That's a grift. She called it a grift.
Yeah, it is.
Right. So I'm really hoping. Yeah, go ahead.
They're shell companies.
Yes, so they did make it up. I think that now this precedent, even though Donziger did say, I know you see 16 million and you think, for 4 villages, each farmer's village. How, like, that's so little because they make hundreds of billions of dollars. However, these villages, think about America as far as money comparison from now to like 1865. If someone had $1 million in 1865, we might as well have $1 billion. So we're talking about a huge difference. And this 16 million, even though split up between 4 of these farmers' villages, is really going to help them clean up and start anew, and have generational wealth for many generations to come. That's how much it is to them. Even though it's just pennies and it's a slap on the fucking wrist to this shell company, it is quite a bit for these individual villages to do irrigation, to have education for their children, to say, no, we don't need you to come help us in the fields. We need you to go get educated. We got this now. That's makes my heart happy. And knowing that this justice, just a little tiny fucking bit of justice, finally comes to people who deserve it. It's the best part of this whole story. Why Donziger does what he does. I think he's a hero. I think environmental justice attorneys, they don't do it for the money. That's for sure. He lives in an apartment with his teenager son and his wife in New York. It's not big of, we've seen it. Was on house arrest and did videos from it. It's just a regular New York nice apartment, but not big. He's a regular American hero. And I just love that this happened for him. And this precedent, the way he described it is, it's going to be harder because he takes these cases. There's all these new laws in the last 10 years that can hold other countries accountable. Amazing laws. Maybe I should cover that too. Let me see. I'll write that down right now. All these laws have made it easier for a village, a mom who had her children kidnapped, whatever it might be, or sex trafficked, can actually help. These laws, because of these laws, he can take a court case like Chevron that he took that court case here, and they said it has nothing to do with them here because it's a subsidiary. So he took it to Canada. Canada said, no, you owe this much. They took it to another country. That country said, no, you owe this much. They took it to France. France said, no, you owe this much. They took it to Ecuador. And because of all this precedent, that really put a lot of pressure on them and made them look shitty. It really did. But America still said, we're not America, Chevron here in America still held their ground and said they weren't going to pay for it. But with the Shell and this respected judiciary saying, this is a fucking grift, you made this shit up to skirt the laws and it's not happening in my country, that's going to put pressure on other respected judiciaries to do the same. Now it's precedent that this is all made up in a grift. That's the big part of this story. Yes, it's great that there's justice coming. That's the best part of the story. But the part of the story that you need to take away is that this is going to push the needle. Even if it's just a little bit, it's better than nothing. And that's fucking huge. I love Donziger. Yes.
I think he's awesome.
Yes, it is.
Just awesome.
Okay.
All right. Ready to move on to our final?
I am. I know that the final topic is. It rhymes with taint.
It does.
Okay, it kind of does. There's not an N in it, but might as well be.
Don't ruin it. Don't ruin the rhyme.
Tainty taint.
All right. All right. Where do we start? Okay. Okay. If you don't know who Andrew Tate is,
Big Brother. He was on the show Big Brother a very, very long time ago.
Yeah, I read that today. I didn't know that.
And the reason why he only lasted a week is because video surfaced of him beating his girlfriend with a belt within a week of him being on that show. So that's where we'll start. Yeah, let's start there.
Yeah, we'll start there.
Right, Peter.
Yeah, he's a former kickboxer, TV reality star. Um, he's been banned from a number of social media platforms. He is a self-proclaimed misogynist, right? I, I will start. And he's a role model for young men. Uh, Half the time you see him, at least in pictures, video, he's wearing pretty much what I'm wearing right now. A robe, and you can guess whether or not he's wearing pants. I'm really
Mhm.
Mr. For you, I am. And yeah, well, anyways, Andrew Tate, his name's been gaining a lot of recognition as of late. Um, and mostly because he's become a role model for a lot of young men. And these lot of young men, mostly, if you don't know the term, I will quickly explain it to you. Well, incels,
Yeah.
voluntary celibate boy. Basically, if you don't know what an incel is, um, one, go check out a um, go check out a good debate. Look up incels, look up the Non Sequitur Show. You'll find some really good dumpster fires.
You sure
Um,
will.
they they always become aggressive if they don't start that. And pretty much the whole idea of their ideology, because it does come with an ideology, is that they're in they're
Gandhi.
they're what?
Sorry. Sorry, I should have muted it. I was
Okay.
like, great, I'm muted.
Um, they don't want to be celibate, but they are, and it's mostly because women are bitches, and they only want bitch boys, right? So Andrew Tate has figured this out. He's taken what, the red pill, the black pill, a pill. He makes a lot of Matrix references too, and with this knowledge, um, he's he's made himself into this total Chad. Incels will love that. Ooh, maybe we'll get more views on our channel when we talk about incels. We should have done this a long time ago. Christy's Excuse me. Um, yeah, because he's making this image of himself so he can get bitches, and people look up to him for it. He's got this little mansion. He's a rapper. If you didn't know, he also raps. He has some music videos. He always has gorgeous women around him. Um, makes makes these makes these scenes, right? But he also speaking of scenes, seems to be making porn with women without their consent. It seems he was arrested in Romania on Thursday, and reason being, he is a suspect, although not directly named as a suspect, just um, arrested. And then prosecutors came out and said something while they're talking about him being arrested, and his brother Tristan, that these four suspects um, have been involved in um, the what's this saying? Uh, there's charges of human trafficking and rape and forming and organized crime. So these women that they had kept in, actually, I'm not quite sure where they've been kept. I've heard a couple different things. I don't if you can clarify, you can jump in at any time. But they're being kept against their will. One woman in particular was an American, and somehow she got a hold of her ex-husband, who she left.
Ex-boyfriend.
Ex-boyfriend. Okay, I'm sorry. Ex-boyfriend. Who she left to go be with this millionaire. They were using the what do they call it? The lover boy method.
Yep. Lover boy method. You're the only girl. They sweep them off their feet. They show them, look, I'll take you out of my boat. I don't want to be with anyone else. Come be with me. Let's live this extravagant life. And young girls who are needing something or missing something or just actually fooled by him get there after they spend a wonderful night together and fall asleep. He takes their passport, their ID, their cell phone, their everything. Now they can't go nowhere.
Yep, and they keep them through physical violence and mental coercion. So
one of the girls that was at this place was underage.
One of them was underage.
One of the 6 girls that were there, all of them were held against their will, and one was underage.
Yeah, and the American woman was 21. These are all young women. And now it's important to point out why. Why does this happen? Because this is something that not everyone else is really talking about. And I'm leaning into the incel thing. Honestly, and I'm not doing this to make enemies. Incels are like some of our like biggest rivals as humanists, right? Because when you label yourself as an incel, and you're in this type of group, it's highly toxic. The chat rooms and the conversations that are had are extremely dehumanizing. It's just a safe space where men who can't get laid, who are assholes, mostly assholes because they can't get laid or because they can't get laid because they're assholes. They just dehumanize women. They talk about their kill and rape fantasies together. And it makes it okay when you dehumanize the subject, of which is women, so you can treat them like something else. If you actually trick one into having a wonderful night, which is crazy. Because I have this wonderful, I think it's wonderful, this wonderful philosophy that if you see something that you want to be, right? Pretend that you're that. Right? Not just to pretend it, not just to trick people, but to become that. Right? If you want to be someone, try and be that person until it becomes like breathing.
Right. Yeah.
That's a wonderful thing to do. They do it to get a victim of who they think is just some bitch who would have not been with them if they weren't a lying asshole. They are dehumanizing. I have to say it again. They're dehumanizing. So this is okay to them because women
he's on record for saying when girls are raped, if girls are raped, they are partially to blame. They're to blame. Like, a girl shouldn't be out by herself. Like, she should have known and take precautions. Are you fucking kidding me? I have to worry about someone else's problems? That's not. He was blocked from Twitter for saying these horribly sexist things and banned in perpetuity. Like, he was just not coming back. And, the fact that he has stated, now he's a liar, but has stated that him and Elon Musk have met in person, and not too long before he was put back on Facebook. If you guys still think Elon Musk is a good person, you haven't been paying attention. I'm not saying that him and this guy are friends. I don't know. But Tate had no reason to lie a week or two ago, whenever this happened. But like I said, he's a liar. So who knows? But the fact that you would even say, let me see what he said. Yeah, he can come back on.
Yeah, right. So no, I would like to clarify. I mean, I haven't gone over everything he says. I'm pretty tolerant as far as it goes for free speech, um, even some level of hate speech, because I think it's to be combated with good arguments. Like that's how you actually combat free speech, because sorry, bad speech, because bad ideas go dark. They always do. That's why the KKK is still around, because they feel like they can't say anything to anyone. But I love it when they do, because we get to see that they still exist and they look like fucking idiots. I love that. Um, that said, moving on, Andrew Tate was quoted saying, because he moved to, oh, where is it? I already forgot. Romania. Um, Within 5 years ago, and he bragged to his following that he moved to Romania because he figured the police were less likely to arrest him for sexual assault. Ironic, one. Two, feels like an admission. Feels like one. I would like to say, and this is just me, just saying, just my opinion, right? I would not be surprised if this drags on, this investigation drags on, and uh, a Romanian judge has said that we're keeping him for at least 30 days. So the 24-hour detainment has gone up to 30 days. So that's fantastic. I can't hear you, Christy. I'm sorry.
Romania their court systems, they get 30 days at a time, but there's no limit. There's no limit on how many 30 days. They can do as many as they want. And there's absolutely no bail for him because he's wanted by Interpol. He's wanted by many nations for human rights abuse in multiple nations. Him and his brother have been wanted by Interpol for a little while now. They're just trying to lock down exactly where he was, and he put himself on blast.
Yeah, and we'll go over how it was caught soon. But I really do want to make this clear. And again, I'm not hearing this many places. Again, this is just my opinion, but I would not be surprised if they find dead bodies connected to this, right? Because,
well, I mean, America and UK are two of those countries, and they're not going to want to like be on anyone's bad side, even if they're corrupt there, which I mean, we're corrupt here. So even if, they have corrupt officers in place there, everybody's going to want to be on their best foot because of the nations who have opened up these investigations with Interpol's help. Like, they're not going to see the light of day, whether they don't reside on Earth anymore or they do. I don't think.
But I mean, I just want to really make sure people understand like what this dude's done and the kind of influencer that he is. Because he's not afraid of being having that like incel label around him, and all of the hate that he has for women, and then the ways that he is seemingly treating women, right? Forcing them to make porno so he can make money, and physically harming them, and basically kidnapping them, keeping them against their will. What do you do with someone after you're done using them? You just send them off so they can talk? Like, that's a stupid criminal thing to do. And I just highly doubt that's what he would do. Honestly, I'm just saying do that. Completely speculation on my part, but I'm really ready to say I told you so really soon. And I don't. I'm not going to be happy that happened. But I honestly feel like this is the kind of people we're dealing with. Because I've seen our friends on the skeptic side of Twitter have conversations with these people. They are some of the most hateful people that we have come across. I mean, at least Westboro Baptist Church just wants us to burn in hell for all eternity when we die. They don't actually want to kill us, right? Not themselves. These people fantasize about the women they want to rape and kill.
About owning other human beings.
And owning other human beings.
Yeah, he literally owns. He stated when he used to have Twitter. I didn't ever talk about him because I'll throw up. He was so disgusting. You know, in the times we're in now, like there's stuff from just 5 years ago that I watched and I'm like, that wouldn't fly today. You know, we have come a far way as far as women, we're not your bitches no more. You can't rape us anymore. You've been raping us for thousands of years. You've been owning us, determining what we do with our lives, who we marry because it benefits you, when we can do things, how we did it, what we wore for thousands of years. Just 50 years ago, we earned the right to determine what happened to our own body. Just 50 years ago, and it's being taken away now. So, you know, forgive me when I say that, you know, like, how is that fly? The stuff he pushes. How does someone sit down and go, yeah, I should own bitches. They should listen to me. And I'm the head of household. And I like, no, like that's
echo chambers. You know, one answer is echo chambers will do that. Another answer is if you saw one of his other quotes, he's like, guys talking to his fans, look at the Bible verses I've quoted. Like, you know, I'm speaking spiritually, and look at the charities I donated to, and they're treating me like a bad guy. That wasn't since he was arrested, but that's been recent. Like, it doesn't fucking matter if you quote the Bible. There's a lot of atrocious things in there. And even if you don't believe there are atrocious things in there, you know that people can spin it in a way, right? So, like, he's one of those people who either spin it or quote it in a really bad way. It's this is the opposite of a humanist. He's literally a dehumanist, and he's done that to at least 6 women in this case that they found so far.
Right, but the case from Interpol is from him doing this in other nations and money laundering in at least 2 other nations. I'm telling you, he's in trouble.
Oh yeah, and he should be.
I agree. I'm seeing just a little bit of justice. It gets me so fired up from not having justice. That gets me fired up too, but in a like almost heavy, like kind of way. But this is a different kind of fired up. This is justice makes me happy, fired up.
Yeah, I think Romania is really proud of this.
They should be.
Yeah, because they like, I saw a lot of footage. It's like and like evidence stuff. Like they arrested him on Thursday, and they already have like pictures of like his firearms and his like computers and stuff.
Oh,
They're
that
being
country
very public about it.
does not allow the firearms he has.
Right. That's the thing.
Yeah, it's not America. He couldn't
strict
have
firearm laws.
right. Yes, they do.
So let's get to Larry's Pizza. Larry's Pizza?
Isn't it Jerry's?
Larry's Pizza. Yeah. Okay. If you guys didn't know, Greta Thunberg, if I'm saying it right, I'm trying to say it right. I tried. He got a little Twitter fight with her, and that was just a couple days ago. He said something to the extent of, "Yo, Greta, I've got like 30 cool muscle cars that make a ton of like enormous emissions, and you should like, come check them out." Basically, like, hey, I can school you on like the cars and how much pollution they make, and then I'll make you a bitch. Like, just being a dumbass.
Out of the blue. He just tags her out of the blue. Unsolicited.
He wants to troll, right?
He wants to troll her. Yeah, so please provide your so I can further tell you about all of these cars that he actually doesn't own. He does not own 33 cars. Like he just doesn't. He doesn't own a private jet. He doesn't own those things. He charters a private jet. He rents cars. He leases a couple cars, and he takes pictures with other people's cars. Like it's a grift. Yeah. I love that her reply, Greta's reply to that was.
You want to read it, or do you want me to?
Yeah, please read it, because it's. I have a picture of it, so I will keep it forever.
Okay, I'm trying to see if I have the exact quote. I basically have it memorized, so I'll just try to say it.
Getalife.com.
Yes, please educate me. And you can email me at smalldickenergy@getalife.com, which was really hilarious.
Oh.
So fun. I've never known Greta to have that much wit, and I'm very glad that she has. So
I mean, she's 19 now, but it was just like she didn't even wipe her hands. She was like, smash the bug.
Yeah. He first replied, "How dare you?" And then like hours later, a while later, he came back with something like, "Oh, you're just saying you got a small dick. That's got you there, bitch."
Yeah. Apparently tags her again, has a small penis, or told me she has a small penis. The world was curious, goes on about her, it's 50-50. I don't want to misgender her. Like, dude, you've already been owned. You've already been owned.
Right. So he goes online because he's black. 39. He tries to make this.
Is he 39?
He's 36.
36. Okay, thank you.
So he goes online to make a video to talk about how he fucking owned her, and he has a Jerry's Pizza, which is local to where he is, and they deliver. I don't know how they found him. I can only assume they got a hold of Jerry's Pizza and was like, "Hey, did you deliver recently?"
Yeah, I'm sure it just helped confirm.
Line it up with a pin.
Yeah, it just probably helped confirm. I do know that the last time I listened to Romanian news, the police talk about it there, and it was translated at the bottom of my phone. They were saying there is a rumor going around that the pizza boxes told us exactly where he was. That's not true. We have Interpol working on this, and they named off a couple different other things that he, RICO, pretty much like a racketeering, money laundering, weapons, and human trafficking, and sex, like all the things. and the Interpol will be taking over and helping them with blah blah blah, and the American FBI and UK's blah blah blah. Like, yeah, they're not playing, and that they had been working on it for a while now. Whether it helped confirm that, I mean, obviously he's right here or not, it doesn't matter, because Twitter at that point had already thought that that's, he posted it, you could see the little QR code on it, that's how they found him. So that was already out there. So I'm sure Greta just heard that, and then she had a amazing response, which just put a bow right on top of the Christmas present that is him getting arrested.
Yeah, I think it was, that's what you get for
This
not
is what
recycling your pizza boxes.
This is what happens when you don't recycle your pizza boxes. That's it. No capital, no punctuation. That's it. This is what happens.
So funny.
Brilliant. I mean, I laughed out loud when I saw it. I was like, wait, what? She's so funny.
Yeah. I'm so glad she's just still kicking hard.
Yeah. And she further educates herself every single day on environmentalism, on what she can do, on new stuffs. Super smart kid. I was telling Mac before the show that I get the Oxford word of the week because I'm a word nerd. Whatever, it's a thing. Now you know one if you didn't know before. I'm sure a couple of you, at least, I won't mention any names, are word nerds as well. Oxford also likes to post the word of the day. And let's see. I will pull it up. Just go ahead and talk about something so I can look where it is.
I had a joke and I forgot it.
You did.
I said it was a joke. I was trying to think of a punchline, but not happened. Quickly, I really hope that you guys all had a wonderful holiday, whether it was Christmas or otherwise. We love you guys so much. We really hope that you have a wonderful New Year's Eve and New Year's transition. Whatever. If you guys would like, I've already mentioned this tonight, but I really wanted to mention it at the end of the show anyways, and I'm glad that I remembered that little thing that I said about pretending to be who you want to be. You don't have a New Year's resolution. That's fine. I think they're kind of stupid. You should make a resolution whenever the fuck you want. But
when you wake up.
When you can remember the date, yeah, when you wake up.
Yeah, when you wake up.
Something
or after you smoke a joint and ponder.
After you smoke a joint and ponder. Something that helps me kind of keep my goals in line, and this is where our sponsor comes in. I'm joking with our sponsors. Is picking a date that means something to me already. So when my birthday comes around, I try to think is there anything that I want to accomplish by then or start by then, because it helps motivate me that I can say by that birthday I started this.
Right. Yeah.
And
okay.
I keep track of how long I've been doing said thing. Right. But the New Year's good for that as well. The first of the year. So you have 24 hours more or less, if you live in our home, I feel like you don't have to think long, right? Pick 1, pick 2, 3 role models that you already like. Fucking Batman, Barack Obama, and Bugs Bunny. Pick those 3 people. Choose a characteristic or a few that you like from them, or one of them, whatever. Doesn't fucking matter. Choose what you want. And just be that more often.
Right.
Right? If it's already in the back of your mind, just be less conscious about it. You're less self-conscious.
It will happen if you do it all the time. It will just become you. Not them, but you.
Yeah. So this year, be who you want to be. And hopefully that person is a humanist. But just be comfortable with yourself. It really goes a long way in everything that you do. It helps all of your relationships, even the bad ones. Because if someone doesn't like who you're becoming and you felt bad in that relationship anyways, do yourself a favor, right? So that's my New Year's hope for you. You take that resolution and apply with it. And if you do, let me know about it.
Your New Year's thoughts. I like your New Year's thoughts. I like word of the year. It's always something I need to put into my vocabulary because it's a new word. And like, I want to know those words because I'm a word nerd, remember? All right, ready? Goblin mode. New Oxford word of the year speaks to the times. Goblin mode has been chosen by the public as the 2022 Oxford word of the year. The term, which refers to a type of behavior which is unapologetically self-indulgent, lazy, slovenly, greedy, typically in a way that rejects social norms or expectations, has become the first word of the year to have been decided by a public vote. Yeah, Donald Trump, Marjorie Taylor Greene, this Santos guy lying about everything, including that he's Jewish and his mom died in the towers. And I don't like. Yes, Santos is a saint, and like you're not a saint, dude. You're a loser. Goblin mode, 100% goblin mode. So it says, given a choice of 3 words or phrases / hashtag, word in this case is defined fairly loosely, narrowed down by lexicographers from Oxford University Press, OUP. More than 340,000 English speakers around the world cast their vote. Metaverse was the second choice, followed by hashtag I stand with. Goblin mode was a landslide victory. It was selected by 318,956 people, making up 93% of the overall vote. Because goblin mode is what happened in America. What's MAGA do? Goblin mode.
The goblin mode.
Yeah. That's good stuff, man. It is. So, Happy New Year, human beings. I got a dog named Mr. Bean, and I'm a human being, and Mac's a human being. And sometimes I like being good, and sometimes I like being bad. Words are fun, my bad. Sometimes he's a jealous dog, and we call him Jelly Bean.
Yeah, no kidding.
There's so many things you can use with Bean Bean. Bean Bean's my best friend.
Not to want us to mention for the LEAH that it's been 10 months. 10 months since fighting started in Ukraine. Our hearts go out to you guys. We really hope you guys keep fighting.
Let's see. Can we show of hands in the chat? Do you want me to do an update on Ukraine or Yemen on the next show? I will do both, but I'll just choose the one you guys want most next show as far as an update. I did Iran this week, Ukraine or Yemen. They both need updates. So let's see by who wants what. If you guys want to update on Ukraine or Yemen.
I do have a suggestion for Ukraine.
Okay.
Sadly, the fighting started on my birthday, February 24th. And that is coming up. We could just do it at the year mark.
Okay.
Do a big, like, year at a glance.
Save it for then, so do Yemen next, and then do. Okay. All right, well, I'm Mac 1, so it doesn't matter what anyone else does. So I can't see it's not my fault. Look, I literally can't, there's nothing in the chat for me. There's Mac, but the chat just won't pull up. So
I got to it before they even heard it.
I got it to pull up. Yes. Oh, Smitty said Yemen. Damn it. Yeah, I told you we were talking about it. That's why I said it when I was talking to Naka. So yeah. Many I know. You and I are pretty informed on that Yemen. Oh, my dad said Yemen too. Goodness. That's
Perfect.
awesome. Okay, it'll be Yemen. Definitely do Yemen next week.
Perfect.
All right.
All
Well, not
right.
next
Well,
week.
I have two more phrases for you guys.
Yes, I like them. I'm ready. Hit me.
One for you is, if I can say it right, got the honor.
Mm,
Happy New Year in Viking. Thought you'd appreciate that.
I like it. Do it again.
Got knit otter.
All right now. Ragnar Lothbrok.
Got knit otter. So got knit.
I like
So there you go. There's that. Happy New Year. You can just look it up on Google. I didn't have that memorized. I looked it up for Christy because now I know she appreciates my.
I do. I am, yes. I'm pro Viking. I don't know why, but I just am. Sold.
And the other one is stay humanist.
For godless sakes.